Hello, everyone. We are live for our first discussion of the 20 something book club for this year.
Woo!
And we're going to be. Woo, woo, woo. And we're going to be discussing Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. And I want to hear your thoughts. Like
Um,
overall, like rating, I guess.
I think we all gave it the same rating. I went to check. I'm sorry, I'm nosy.
Really? Yeah, for me, it was definitely like a solid 4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Okay, so what did we like about the book?
Okay, so you start. You're the host. You start.
Really? Okay. I think my favorite part about the book was the writing. I think the writing was really top notch, and I'm definitely gonna. I had already had some interest in reading Shugi Bain, but now I'm definitely even more interested because of the writing. Um, and I guess let me go into what I not disliked. I didn't dislike anything about the book, but what I wasn't expecting, I guess, was the story to be so sad and tragic, like throughout the whole book. And it was just, I don't know, maybe I'm not in the mood for that right now. So it just didn't click with me, the whole like story. I was expecting something a little bit different, maybe. From the plot, I feel like I don't know if that's something you guys also noticed, but like from the plot and the backside of the book, it says that it has to do with a lot of the differences between Mungo and James in terms of the religion. And I felt like that was a very like small part of the book, the fact that they're from different, I guess, backgrounds, and you kind of only see that with the parts of like when the gangs, I guess, kind of like go against each other, with Hamish, with Mangos's brother Hamish. So I don't know, I was expecting maybe something a little bit different. What about you guys? What did you like and dislike, like overall?
So I really liked the romance nuggets that we got.
Yeah,
Like
and I just to kind of like finish off what I was saying, the romance was so small, and that's also something that I wasn't expecting. It was just like such a
Yeah.
small part of the book. So yeah, go ahead.
I thought like the author did a really good job of like making it feel really tender and special. Like so like I was like giggling and like twirling my feet like when they were having those moments, and I just thought it was I think because they were kind of few and far between, it made it like all the more special. But it really just felt like they found like a real tender love between them, and like I actually had a hard time with the writing because
Really?
Because
yeah,
of like
I just like
the
had no idea what they were
accent.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
the
the
accent.
Scottish
Yeah.
lingo, I was just like, girl. Like I've seen Dairy Girls, so that like I had a feel for like some of the like words they were saying and how they were using it. But like most of the I Googled like a lot of the slang they were like using because I was like, I have no idea what
Yeah.
this means. I also found it to be like really detail heavy,
Mm-hmm.
which is not one of my favorite like things. I kind of felt like it was overusing description and not like actually less plot.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I don't know, that's the author's choice. That's just their writing style, and it was still enjoyable, you know. But it does kind of feel like another one of those like queer love stories that are like characterized by their trauma. And while they're important to listen to, it's also like nice to have stories without like queer trauma. So I don't know. I was curious like how similar this was to A Little Life because I've seen like some reviews compare them in Goodreads.
Is it? Is it
Yeah.
similar?
I don't feel like it's like I don't feel like it's comparable because the size of the book, obviously, like A Little Life is twice as long as this one, so it has a lot more trauma. But I do understand the comparison in terms that like it, it does like as long. Oh my god, I can't. I'm sorry. Um, like the book is like really bad, and then the story starts getting better, and then something really bad happens, and it's always like that with it was always like that with The Little Life. And I did feel kind of like that same structure of like nothing can ever be good in this
Yeah.
boy's life throughout the book. So I do understand the comparisons in terms of that. But like, yeah, same with the thing about like always being about queer trauma. I also felt that throughout the book, that just like why does why do acclaimed books about queer relationships have to always involve a lot of trauma for them to be good? That's also something that with A Little Life kind of bugs me, that people are like, oh, this book is amazing, but it's just like so sad. It's kind of like almost like, I don't know, not traumatizing you in like a third person way, but like it's just affecting you. So obviously you're gonna like it, you know? So I do understand that comparison, but I don't think it's comparable. With because A Little Life, it just takes it to a whole different level in terms
Yeah.
of like trauma that the characters face. But in terms of the writing, what I was saying did not include the dialogue, because I do understand your point of like not understanding anything from the dialogue. And what I did to kind of understand a little bit better was listen to the audiobook as I was reading the book, because
Oh,
the
okay.
narrator on script was doing a really good job at like saying, he was probably Scottish as well. So he was doing a really good job of like speaking like the characters were speaking in the book, and it was a lot easier to understand that way. But yeah, I really like the writing other than the dialogue, because the dialogue was hard to understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, now Rita, what did you
I will
like?
say, I wanted to ask you this because I read it on my Kindle, so I didn't have like the physical book with
Okay,
me. But it felt really long.
Yeah.
a little
Like
bit.
it felt like I was reading for like 20 minutes and then I had read like 3% of the book. And I was like, what is happening? I feel like I've been here for a million years. I'm not saying this in like a necessarily like really negative way. It's not like I didn't enjoy the reading experience. I'm just saying that I was just like, I've been here for so long
Yeah.
and I've still only read like 5%. I don't know if you guys felt that way with like, I don't know if the physical book experience was a little bit different, maybe,
A little bit. Like the book is less than 400 pages, but it
but it
definitely
didn't
felt
feel like
longer.
it, right?
Yeah, I thought this was like 500 pages, and now that I'm checking, I'm like, whoa, what?
Yeah. It took me a while to read it too, and like I think because of the tone, and like there
Yeah,
kind of was a sense of like things are gonna get worse, so you just
yeah.
kind of knew like where things were headed, and you just knew like it was impending.
I
um
I I really struggled a lot with like I struggle. It's not like I feel like there's a difference between being like actually triggered by the book and not being able to continue. I'm not saying that that's what happened to me, thankfully, because I don't have any problem personally related to that, but I really struggled with like the camping.
yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
really struggled to read that. It was like I really hate when that happens. I don't know if you guys have read Earthlings by Sayaka.
No, I know
Not
what you're
no,
talking
okay.
about though.
But it also had a lot of like it's not necessarily like the explicitness, but just like a lot of sexual assault of like minors and like power imbalances, and I just really struggled reading that. So those scenes were like really difficult to read, and honestly, I know we're jumping a little bit ahead, but I did not expect it to go the way that it did.
Hmm.
Oh,
Like it went places. I was like, oh, I did not expect it to happen. But yeah, those are the scenes that I struggled the most with. But I really did like the writing. I thought it was lyrical, but at the same time, it was very like punchy. It was like really
Hmm.
direct and it was like really brutal. And I felt like it suited the environment that Mungo was in because I don't know. It felt very real. Like I've never been to Scotland and I don't know how to say this without offending the people of Scotland, but it felt like it could have been a real story. You know, like it felt strangely like autobiographical. Like I don't know, like it felt really personal. And it felt like I was reading about something that had happened to someone in real life. and that just made it even more upsetting. Like,
Yeah.
did you find it realistic, or were you like, this is fiction throughout, this has never happened to anyone? Because, for example, Butter Honey Cooked Bread, there was like that element of like the mythicism and like it was not 100% grounded in reality, and I think it helped to get through the tough things. But here it was just like so real, and it was just so brutal that it was like really difficult to read, because I imagine that it had happened, or it happens to some people, you know.
Yeah, I think that's also because of the writing, because the writing was pretty good. So you were just like immersed in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also felt like that with A Little Life, now that we're talking about it. Because
Really?
yeah, but also because that book was so long that I was just reading it for so long, and it also
Mm-hmm.
felt
Yeah.
really real because I was like immersed in that story for so long. Um, but yeah, I also felt like this could have happened, to be honest. I also got that idea. um yeah, but I think that's because it's just great writing, because like great writing can really immerse you in a story. So I felt like maybe that was it. But yeah.
I think one of the things that grounded me the most and made it like one of the realist elements is like the tensions in the community.
Mhm.
Because that all felt like it's playing out exactly like intersectionally the way it was like really well depicted, it felt like, um with like the inter-rival gangs and then the religious tension. And I know we didn't go like fully in depth about that, but I think it's interesting because like I think that speaks to like it's even though it's like a religious issue, or it's like a Catholics versus Protestant type of thing, like it's not actually about religious differences, it's about like political. And it's also like after all those years it's like they don't even know why they're fighting anymore,
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
like it's turned into something so different. um and it's just like kids fighting kids, um as opposed to like a military or like organized resistance. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that was really interesting because it's like there is like a distancing from the religious conflict. It's a little bit more impersonal, and I feel like that came across. Um, so I thought that was like really realistic, and like I kind of have you guys seen Dairy Girls? Like not to bring it up again,
No.
it's
Not yet, but I love the clip. I'm gay. I'll be gay, Claire. Look at you, and then she's like, "Look at the stadia." I'm like,
look at the
I love
stadia.
that. Yeah, I love that clip so much, and that has inspired me to watch Dairy Girls. But I have that chronic problem of not being able to start new TV shows, and I just rewatch the same shit
Same.
that I've been watching for years. So I'm kind of struggling with that, but I do want to. I
Yeah.
know religion is very present in Dairy Girls, right?
Yeah, but the point of the show is that it's like kind of in the background. Like the
Mm-hmm.
show is about like the teenagers and their lives and stuff, and like they're not really like going to school every day. Like I hate those Protestants, blah blah blah, and like they're not like all consumed with like hatred. They're just like normal teenagers. Um, and when it comes to like why do you hate the Protestants, it's not because like oh, because they're Protestants, like, oh, because they oppress us. So it's, like, I don't know. I thought it was just like with that, like, background, it made it a lot, like, easier to imagine and to immerse myself in. So that could be some, like, fun background reading for everyone.
Happier, I bet.
Yeah.
At least it has, because it has to be happier than the young one.
Wait, I don't think I can hear you properly, Rita. Yeah. At least I can't hear you. Can you? Can I see?
There's, like, a little ticking noise that
Yeah.
I hear.
Yeah, same for me.
Why? Is it because? Should I take them out? I'm ready to try.
Maybe. Wait, you're on mute. Oh, sorry.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's better.
We're losing battery or something. I don't know.
Yeah. What you were saying about the camping scene before, Rita, like I just felt that whole tension throughout the whole, like, all the chapters. So I was kind of expecting that to happen at the end, you know. I don't know. What about you, Casey?
Like the murder.
Yeah. The murders.
Yeah. Oh right, he killed the second guy too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really got it done.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to get that violent. Like I foresaw, like I just envisioned them, like the two of them taking him back to their house and like dropping him off. Like that's what I thought was gonna happen. I'm glad he did it, and because I think he needed that moment to like be violent and to unleash it on someone who like you can like who kind of deserves it in a way, but also he sympathizes with in a way too.
Can I interrupt just to say something? I forgot about this, the writing. I really admired the way that the author made us sympathize with like the most difficult characters.
Yeah.
There was like always these little moments of the author like humanizing them and like the way that Mungo saw them, and I feel like it just added to like the complexity of his relationships with other people, because it wasn't like, oh, these people are all bad, and that made it so much more difficult.
Yeah.
Because I wish that this was just like a cartoonish like evil person, and it would be like completely like, okay, well deserved. But then there was always like these little moments where you're like, that's a person. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? But yeah, continue.
Well, I totally agree. And I think that's like probably one of the strongest things about the book is like how fully fleshed out all the characters feel. Yeah. And like even for like Hamish, who's like maybe one of the most vile characters in the book throughout most of it, like there were still moments when I envisioned him, or like scenes when he was a kid who was like scared of his mom, and I felt that sympathy and I felt like that pain that he like still had in him, and like that being his motivation for being like for how he ended up who he ended up becoming into. So the characters, like, even though they were all like so complex, they always felt so real and messy and awful, but like really human.
Yeah.
We were talking about the camp scene.
Yeah.
Did you envision it becoming lethal for two?
Not until we were closer to it. Like because we start the book with like him getting on the bus and like his mom watching, and I was like, oh, this is weird. I was like, oh, this is not good. This is not good, Mungo. This will not be good. And like the way that he was like bumping knees on the bus, and I was like, oh, this is going to get bad real fast. But yeah, like I just assume that they would do those things to him and that they would just like take him home. Or I also thought it the other way around, because one of them, I think it was Gallowgate, he was planning on hurting Mungo, or possibly not even bringing him back and just murdering him there, because he was afraid that he would tell people what he did. So I thought it more in that direction. I didn't really think that Mungo would hurt them until like he was alone with St. Christopher, and I was like, oh, this man is blind and he's in a body of water. This is not about to go well. Like,
yeah, the cover certainly made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's so dark.
It is. No, I didn't expect it. But Mafalda, you thought that he would kill them?
Yeah, when they started hurting him, I was just like, the fact that these chapters are separated from the rest of the story and we kind of don't even know when this happened, I feel like this is going to be a lot bigger than I think it is. So that's why I thought that maybe he would like get revenge, I guess. So yeah, it didn't really surprise me when he killed Saint Christopher. when he killed Gallowgate, I was a little bit more surprised that he killed both of them. I don't know. I just thought that maybe Gallowgate would find a way to, I don't know, make Mungo not do that thing twice and kill him. So that surprised me, but at the same time, yeah, I was not mad. So I was just like, you do you, Mungo.
I thought that James was going to die.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I thought so because like
Yeah.
in the chapters in the camping scenes, he was like, "Oh, I miss James. Like I can't see James anymore." And it's like James, it's not going to be he's not going to be there for him. And I was like, okay, this can either be like they just can't be together because of the circumstances, or it's like about to get tragic, and the love interest is going to die because he's gay and he's going to be like killed either by Hamish or by the gangs. So I was strangely like really relieved that that didn't happen. I was like, okay, at least he's alive. Like, okay, good. Because I don't think I could have handled it. But didn't you just feel like maybe it's because I am so used to, unfortunately, like really tragic and sad queer stories? But didn't you feel like that's kind of where it was headed, like the romance between them, and then like the whole thing of like Hamish being like, when he found out about it, and he was like, "Oh, you have to be there, or I'll like burn the coop, the Duke coop."
Yeah, had to look that up.
How? Yeah, I'll burn that down. So I was like, I think he will be gone, and that's why he's on this camping trip. And it's like to fix the fact that they found out they have like a lover, and then they killed the lover. But thankfully, it wasn't that bad. You can say that.
If it was a little life, it would have gone down that way.
Right.
Yeah, I really thought that he was going to like
Yeah.
get murked, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
And did we, I don't want to go straight to the ending, but like, did we expect that ending?
Did we understand? Let's start there. Did we understand the ending? Because I did not. I'm putting myself forward. I'm saying that I didn't really understand. Like, he was caught, right?
Yeah.
And then he like waves goodbye to James, and that's it. Or did I miss something?
Like, I was more so talking about the part where they're being questioned and Hamish kind of like goes forward and says, "Oh, I'm Mungo." I was more talking about that part. The whole part with James, I felt like it wasn't really. It kind of gave us some hope that they would maybe flee together. I don't know. But that was kind of like open ending. But I was more so talking about like Hamish stepping forward and kind of like almost taking the blame for Mungo. I really wasn't expecting that. I felt like that was a really weird character development. I don't know. I know they're brothers and they loved each other, but like still,
and I
Hamish is terrible.
So fast. Like he got back from camping and the police were already there with like all these things figured out.
True,
and I was like,
true. Also
I
that.
didn't even know where he was. How did they get back here so quickly? Like he just got here. Give him 5 minutes.
I don't remember what the timeline was with that, but I was so caught off guard about Hamish. And I thought it made a lot of sense though, because I felt like that was his way of like he can't apologize with his words, but he can apologize to Mungo for not being like being the big brother that he needed, for not being that through this thing. And because like it doesn't like Hamish, is that his name? Like he doesn't have a future really. He can like he was gonna end up in jail no matter what. So I thought that was like a really obviously it was a big moment for his character, because he like makes this huge sacrifice for his brother, who he's like kind of treated like crap up until this point, has been really violent with and actively kind of done stuff to crap on his life. And then he makes this like utter sacrifice for him. And I think like given their situation where like everyone in that, out of the 3 siblings, the sister and Mungo kind of had a way out, or they were good. They had their ways out. And I think he was willing to make that sacrifice for them. And like, that was the best thing he could offer them.
Yeah, but at the same time, before the camping trip that Mungo was on, like Hamish was going for his ass and for James. So like,
I feel like like he knew what the camping trip was.
Yeah.
Felt like he
Yeah.
felt I feel like he felt really bad for Mungo, and he was like, that's not the way to, because no matter how violent he was going to get, it was more of like, I'm going to hurt this other person that I think is converting you to be this that I know is not safe for you. It was never like, oh, I'm going to hurt you, Mungo, for being this way. And I feel like the way that he was punished, like that deal of like the camping trip that he was to be made out as a man, I feel like Hamish just knew. And like when he got back and he saw how like disheveled and hurt Mungo was, he was like, yeah, this I think this crossed the line even for me. Like maybe.
Wasn't he the reason why Mungo had to go in the first place? Because didn't he, like, first he nearly killed James, and then he outed Mungo to the mom and the sister, right?
Yes, but I feel like, but because I don't know if I'm not trying to apologize for him. I'm just saying I don't know if he expected his mom to be like, oh, you're going to camping with 2 pedophiles. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
But I feel like
or at least maybe I'm not remembering something. I don't know.
Well, I feel like that gives him more motivation to do it, to make that sacrifice, because like in his eye, I feel like he is smart enough to know that he like was the catalyst for that.
Exactly, but I'm just saying that it's not it was like the indirect result of that, but it's not like the direct result. He didn't say like, oh, now he's going to go camping with these 2 people that are going to abuse him and molest him and assault him. Like, I just think that he outed him, and obviously that wasn't cool. And also, can I just add, I was really disappointed in Jodie, because I was rooting for Jodie the whole time, and then she was like, she had like kind of a weird reaction to that, and I was like, why would you say that?
I don't remember her reaction.
I think it was not. Casey, do you remember it or no?
I feel like she was kind of annoyed by him. Like, you're causing more trouble, right?
Yeah, but it was kind of like not the support that Mungo needed, and I really
she was like, "Oh, you're going to jail now because of that."
Yeah, like I can't believe you would do that, and I was like, that is not what this child needs. And you've been so supportive the whole time, and you've been trying so hard to like protect him, and it's not perfect, but it's like that is not what he needed, and it was like kind of like the last hope that he had. I feel like Jodie,
it
was the last hope that he had of like being accepted or not being straight out like rejected. And it was just like her reaction. I was just like, oh. But yeah, Hamish, I really wasn't expecting that, and yeah, it's kind of open-ended. Like, I don't know what it meant. Like, did they believe him? Did he go to jail for that? Did they realize it was Mungo instead?
Like, I honestly didn't even think twice about it. I was like, okay, book's over. Mungo and James had a happy ending.
Okay, manifestation.
Yeah, I just imagine.
Lulu. Okay, they're so happy together. Everything's fine.
Yeah, they're completely healed of their traumas.
Mm-hmm.
They still have the pigeons. I was really caught off guard by the pigeons.
Oh my god.
That whole part, yeah. Same.
Oh my god.
That's a weird hobby.
Really weird. Is that like, I know you guys don't live in Scotland, but you're closer than I am. So is that like a thing that you know?
It's a thing here.
Really?
My school, like from like 5th grade until I moved, we had like a pigeon thingy. It's not so.
What?
Yeah, like I'm going to say like in today time, it's really not a thing, but it used to be like a big sport and like a big hobby for people. Yeah.
But pigeons are so like dirty and disgusting, honestly.
Yeah. But my school had one.
Great. That's amazing.
Can we talk about Jodie for a little while?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to ask, love her, don't like her? I want to know.
I like her.
I guess I'm just kind of like, I admire her a little bit.
Exactly. Like, she was a mom to Mungo at a really young age.
And the things that she endured, I think she's just really interesting. And then for her to make that like ultimate decision to like choose herself and get out of this, and like you can't blame her for making that, but like I also like really sympathize with Mungo from the perspective of like, how can you leave me? So I just thought it was like, I really just sympathized with her position, and I was like, this is just so interesting to see her like kind of make all these sacrifices and then, choose herself at the end.
Yeah.
Oh my god, when she asks Mungo to like punch her belly,
Yeah.
Oh my
he
god.
like believes that he's the reason she lost the baby. It was a whole thing. It was like it really, I don't know why, but it really got to me. Like when it was written that like she went to take something for the baby to go away, but like Mungo thought that it was his fault, and he was like, I ruined this thing, and it was like that violence that was expected of him that he didn't want to give.
Yeah. And that he had to like perform, or I don't know, like he had to like inflict that on a family member, someone he cared about. Like that kind of mind torture, like that part too made me so uncomfortable because like being asked to do this.
Like, be a man, punch me, and he's like, but I don't want to.
Yeah, and she was like, oh, you only have to hit me once, that's it. And then she was like, no, harder, no, again, harder.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my god, this poor boy, like he was so young.
And then on the other, like literally on the other end of that is like his weird relationship with his mom and like their like physical intimacy sometimes, and like you see like all of these boundaries like kind of being really blurry, and like all these ways that he
was too forgiving. He was like always trying to find the best in everyone, and he was just like trying to find reasons to continue to love people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought that was really heartbreaking because I feel like it hurts less when they turn away from their mother. Like Jodie, like it didn't, even though it was sad, it didn't hurt me to read her passages and her interactions with her mom because she was like so conscious of the damage and how her mother was not acting like a mother should, and she was so older and more mature in that aspect. But it like hurt so much more to see Mungo like always forgive and give reason to why his mom was acting that way. But it also like really hurt. Like I don't know, it was just like it's that thing. Like she's objectively not a good mother. She's like kind of awful, but at the same time, she's like, I'm just 35 and I'm in this shithole, and like my husband died in a stabbing, and it's like now I'm stuck with 3 kids, and this is not the life that I wanted for me. And obviously, she's very selfish, and that's not how it should be. But at the same time, it's like that nugget of like humanization that the author put in, and I'm like, damn, like she's also a product. And like, when we find out about her life and the way that she was like abandoned, and it's like she's also just like a product of this environment.
Yeah,
it was just like
or
also
generational trauma.
It was really generational trauma. Like when we find out that she was abandoned and picked up like by these random people that also did not care for her, and it's like she was with a guy that was exactly like Hamish is going to be. And it's just like, yeah, like she's a product of this unhospitable environment for kids, and it was just kind of sad to see.
Yeah, this reminds me of the Book of Mother, our last pick. Where were you gonna say that?
I need to read that.
I need to read that.
It was so good. It's like permanently going to alter every book. And like stories of women from here on out.
Yeah, true.
It's the blueprint.
It's the blueprint, yeah.
Yeah, I need to read that.
I thought another thing that was incredibly sad to see that's like related to what you just said is like throughout the book we see Mungo like continuously forgive his mom until the very end, until like you see what becomes like too much. Like we can't go back from this, and now he's forced to choose himself. So I thought that was really interesting to see because
when he calls her during the camping trip and he's like so hopeful that she's going to get him out of there, but then he like hangs up and he's like, yeah, she's not. This was her for so long, because like I feel like he had the hope of, if my mom arranges trip, nothing bad is going to happen, and we really are just going to go fishing, and I really am just going to learn all these non-dangerous thing about being a man, like how to fish, how to start a fire, okay, like all this crap, honestly, about how to be a man, but nothing bad is going to happen. And when he saw, like, when he lost that hope, when he realized that this was the, like, his mom knew what he was getting him into.
Yeah. He was always expecting like some good like act of kindness from his mother because like deep down he knew that's what a mother is supposed to do. And especially I feel like I have that subbed, but there's a part where Mungo is talking to James about their mothers. Like, and James is like, "Oh, my mother does this and she's always worried about me." And he's saying a lot of things that obviously mothers feel about their sons and that she cares for him. And Mungo's just like, "Oh, really? Is that what she does?" And he's just like completely like baffled by the idea that a mother could like care for their sons and
Yeah.
actually treat them well, because that's just not what he's experienced at all. And actually, one of my favorite parts is actually 2 pages, 2 full pages. I'm not going to read all of this, but it's basically because that's also something that I liked about the writing. Sometimes we would see inside of other people's heads, not only Mungo. So it's kind of about Jody thinking of the relationship that Mungo has with his mother, and it's on page 282 and 83. And yeah, it talks exactly about that. It's just how Mungo was always expecting the best from his mother. And it says she hadn't needed to ask if it were about Moma. I don't know if that's how you say it, Moma.
I
Sure.
tabbed this page too.
Really?
Yeah.
Which words?
I didn't mark it down, but I think.
Yeah, I pretty much marked everything.
Yeah.
Can you tell me which chapter?
It's
Like in the
chapter 20.
Okay.
And it's kind of at the beginning of the chapter, I think. It's in the middle of the chapter. But it says she hadn't needed to ask if it was about Momo. Everything this about this boy was about his mother. He lived for her in a way that she had never lived for him. It was as though Momo was a puppeteer and she had tangled, knotted strings of him in her hands. She animated every gesture he made, the timid smile, the trumming nerves, the anxious biting, the worried, the pleasing, the way he made himself smaller in any room he was in, the watchful way he stood on the edge before committing, and the kindness, the big, big love. Then a little bit down that page, it says, Momo needed so little and he produced too much, so that it all seemed a horrible waste. It was a harvest no one had seeded and had blossomed from a vine no one had tended. It should have withered years ago like hers had, like Amish's had. So it's just
Yeah, I also underlined that.
yeah, and then it goes even further in the next page. It says he was Momon's youngest son. He was also her confidant, her lady's maid, her errand boy. He was one flattering mirror in her teenage diary, her electric blanket, her doormat. He was her best pal, the dog she hardly walked, and her greatest romance. He was her cheer on a drench morning, the only laughter in her audience. So it was like he was everything for her, and she was not giving him anything in return. So it's just really sad. And I really like these 2 pages because it's just Jody reflecting on their relationship, kind of from an outside view, because I feel like Mungo kind of knew that this was the relationship he had with his mom, but he didn't really, I don't know, he didn't see it as a wrong relationship and something that needed to change, especially at this point. So yeah, really sad stuff.
So it really bothered me when, like, it really pissed me off, and I felt so frustrated and angry when she like disappeared for those weeks when she was with Jockey.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jody was like screaming at her, like, you were ironing for these other boys, you were making food and like neglecting your own. And Mungo was like, you ironed another boy's clothes? Like, you made another boy sandwiches? And I was just like, jail! How could you do this
to this small child. Like, he was so upset. He was like, I can't believe you ironed clothes for another boy.
Yeah, I didn't remember that part anymore, but yeah, that was so
Oh my
sad.
God, it really left an impression on me, because I was like, this evil, wicked woman is ironing clothes and making sandwiches for other boys, and she doesn't even care about her own children.
Yeah.
Also, hi, Kit Kat.
We have a visitor.
I love it.
Also, something that I just remembered about Mungo was that he had like a tick. What was it?
Yeah.
It was kind of like Tourette's, right?
Yeah, I think it was Tourette's.
Okay, but was it like, it was something on his face, right?
It was like he was like chewing his face, or like scratching. It was like scratching his face.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, and also Jodie also had a different kind of tick where she would like laugh.
That's how I imagined it. I don't know if that's how it sounded. That's how I imagined it.
Yeah, I would just imagine like a really empty laugh, like ha ha,
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting thing about the characters, but I felt like it was really, I don't know, it was just a really minor thing.
But like at the end, because like it's not mentioned at all, but like at the end you find out that Jodie did go to the doctor with him, and the doctor was like, okay, this could be because at the moment he's like under really stressful circumstances, and Jodie was like, no shit. Or this could be like Tourette's, and we have to like wait and see to figure it out. But then she never went back to the doctor. So it was like, is this a result, or is this like actually Tourette's?
And almost in his defense, like his whole life has been a stressful circumstance.
Exactly. That's why she was like, okay, I'm not going back. Like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I liked that detail though, because it kind of like, it made me think of like the nurture versus nature debate. And if it's happening to two kids out of three who grew up in the same environment, then obviously it points to nature. And I thought that was, or I guess in that case,
I
nurture.
also don't know. Is Tourette's genetic? I actually have no idea.
I have no idea.
Well, Google is free. Also, Miss Bailey is right
Oh,
yeah. Everyone has their pets. Oh my God.
Bailey, say hello.
She's like, I am not looking that way.
I wonder if she sees Kit Kat and she's like, oh my God, a cat.
No, she's
I
chilling.
think she's blissfully unaware. I think consciousness is a terror, and I think that she's hiding from it.
But speaking of that, like little tick situation, if Mungo and Jodie have that, what does Hamish have? Because obviously, I don't know, they grew up in the same circumstances, so I guess I would guess it's not really a tick, but like his coping mechanism is violence, right?
Yeah.
To all of this.
And it's like also the way that I'm not saying this in a bad way. I don't think it was the author's intention. I'm just saying that the environment is so sad for girls specifically as well.
Yeah.
Like the way that girls were like described and how they had to act, and the fact they were all like pregnant really young.
Yeah.
And they were all just like messing around. Like that was just so sad to see. And they were like, oh, I'm just going to this fountain to finger a girl real quick. I'll be right back. And it's like,
Yeah. Also, do we know when this book was set?
80s? I Googled because I was
really?
like, either end of 80s or early 90s. And I think that's where we settled. I think it's like early 90s. That's a vibe that I got, but I wanted to check. And I think it's not really defined, but like end of 80s, start of 90s.
Yeah,
Also, I love the jabs at Margaret Thatcher. We love to see
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah, I was thinking 80s because of that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to jump off because Bailey needs to go outside.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I mean, if you guys want to keep talking, I can come back in a couple minutes. But I don't want to. She was just scratching at my door and she tooted. So she's signaling.
Okay. Anything else we would like to say? Maybe we'll end it here because honestly, we've already covered pretty much everything.
Yeah,
I don't know. You're making me nervous. I don't know.
I feel like it was a good book, but it wasn't just for me. You can go. You can go.
Okay, goodbye.
I felt like it was a good book, but for the time that I was reading the book, I really wasn't in the mood for such a sad story. Maybe if I read this at another time, I would have given it a higher rating. But still, like a 4 star is a pretty solid
Yeah,
rating.
it is a high. It just I reserve my fives for like favorites.
Yeah.
It's not, especially because I'm gonna be honest. It's not a book that I'll revisit.
Oh
It has
yeah.
plenty for one time. It
Yeah.
has been good enough for one time only. So I'm not suffering through this again. And so I was like, yeah, it's like a really solid 4. But is it a favorite? No.
No,
Like,
it's not. And I don't think I would recommend it to anyone.
okay, that's like
Maybe
also,
someone who likes like history wants to read like a Scottish book as well, because I don't think I've ever read a Scottish author before this one. I would have to like Google it, but I don't think I have ever read a Scottish book.
but I also wonder because Shuggy Bane, from what I read in the synopsis and from what I know, also has a lot of like overlapping themes with Young Mungo.
Really?
Like, also a queer story about a boy with an alcoholic mother. So I'm just like, what is the overlap here?
And it's also set in the 80s. Interesting.
And okay, I think it's queer. I'm not sure.
I'm
I'm not sure. I think it might.
not sure as
But at
well.
least it does have an alcoholic mother. Like I know that.
Yeah.
So
And it's
I was
also
reading it
rebel.
and I was like, oh, this sounds like what I've read about Shuggy Bane.
Yeah, it's also queer, at least from the tags on Goodreads.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I just wasn't sure.
Yeah. Let me check which one has a higher rating. I feel like Young Mungo has a higher rating than this one. What?
I think Shuggy Bane has more ratings, so I think
Probably.
it lessens it a bit.
Yeah, it has almost double the ratings.
This is like the Booker
yeah.
Prize. No, not the Booker Prize.
I think it was.
Big prizes,
It
right?
was the 2020 Booker Prize. I don't know if it was the winner or if it was just a nominee, but it has that stamp. So
Yeah, so that's why it has a lot of readers.
yeah.
Very sad. I am upset. I will be suing for emotional damage.
What? Sorry.
I will be suing for emotional damage.
Same. Douglas Stewart, I will come for you.
Really,
but I don't know.
Sorry.
What? Sorry.
Please write one happy story to compensate.
Yes. Yeah, it's weird that he has basically the same. Oh my god. Kit Kat almost fell out of the table. I don't know why. It's weird that he has the same like concept and the same time frame and the same city for 2 books, and they're really big successes both. I don't know. I would have to check the plot of Shuggy Bane and see what the differences are. But maybe I'll give it a go. I don't know. We'll see. Not now, for sure.
Well, not
now. A long time in the future. But I don't know. What I was going to say is for someone who's read A Little Life, this is a walk in the park.
Okay, that makes me, I've already decided that I'm never going to read A Little Life, but you just saying that, it's like, yeah.
Just read the plot is probably on Wikipedia, so just read the plot there.
I know that I read, I hope no one is watching this, but I know that I read at one point he like loses his legs. Is that true?
I think so. At least one of them.
For the author to like, I'm going to skip both his legs out. It's over for him.
I think that this is gonna become really graphic. Maybe we should end the live show, but I think it's because like the main character cuts himself a lot, and I think he cuts a lot on his legs, and his kind of like veins and nerves kind of are damaged, and then he has to like, I think that's it from what I remember.
She really went there.
yeah, she really went there. Like, anyway, I guess that's it for Young Mungo.
Anyway,
And anyways, exactly. And next month we're gonna be reading. I should have grabbed the
Natural
book.
Beauty.
Natural Beauty, exactly. A horror book in February. Why not? And
Yeah.
when I said next month, it's actually this month. I should be reading
Yes.
it right now, and I definitely need to start it. But we'll probably have our live show at the beginning of March, probably. And yeah, we'll see you guys there. Bye.
I'll be in the chat. I'll be
Yeah.
happy. I'll be happy there.